Now, I want to move on from that to sequels because sequels are getting a lot of analysis now that people are sick of them. And on the eve of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows opening in theaters and tracking at half of what the original, the 2014 movie, I should say, made, which was, I think it's tracking at about 37. So that means, that the original opened to about, what, 70-something million. What do you think about this past weekend's box office of Alice Through the Looking Glass tanking as hard as it did?
Yeah.
This is a sequel to a movie that made $1 billion.
To a movie that was the sixth movie ever to make $1 billion.
It opened with 116 million. Okay, this one, the sequel, Through the Looking Glass, opened for the 3-day weekend with 27 million. For the 4-day weekend, because it was Memorial Day here in the States, $33 million. That's not, it's barely a quarter of what the opening, holy crap, dude.
Oh yeah, that was shocking.
What do you think's going through Disney's head right now?
For a lot of reasons, I think even though Pirates is a much more established franchise, the fact that they have a finished Pirates movie on the shelf, well, filmed, obviously there's posted, they have to be wondering about that. And I don't know, I was talking on Twitter about this with some people about the fact, like, oh, is it going to make them, because they're going so all in on the live action versions of their classic stuff. I'm like, well, it's not going to stop that. It's not going to curtail that, especially when Beauty and the Beast was the most viewed trailer ever.
And Jungle Book's a huge hit.
But maybe it will stop them from doing as many sequels to those movies, even though they have a Maleficent sequel in development. The other thing though with Alice, Alice was a weird case because I personally thought it was a terrible movie, the 2010 Alice, and I wasn't alone on that, but it was a $1 billion hit. That movie's biggest problem, and there were other factors, including the fact that 3D was such a sensation at the time. It was coming off of Avatar. All that's true, but I also think if they had that Alice sequel come out 2 to 3 years after, it would have done a lot better. I think the fact that it was 6 years later, and the 3D craze was over. The fact that it was a bad movie, some people who were really into it had kind of forgotten about it. Like waiting that long was like the last straw.
And also, it does make, and I don't want to kind of diverge too far into Avatar, but like when those sequels finally show up, it'll be a decade after that. And then X-Men Apocalypse didn't do as well as X-Men Days of Future Past in its opening. It opened 3-day weekend of 65 million and then about 80 million for the 4-day. It's the 6th highest grossing in the series. So it's not that great, but Neighbors 2 underperformed. And then on the horizon we have Star Trek Beyond, we have Finding Dory, we have Jason Bourne, we have The Conjuring 2, Purge Anarchy, Ice Age, whatever the hell number they're up to now, and then Now You See Me Too. So, do you think any of these movies should be nervous?
Nervous to an extent. I think it was Vanity Fair was saying how what we might be seeing is sort of sequels going back to what they classically were, which is if you looked in the 80s and I think even into the early 90s, sequels, including to giant blockbuster movies, it was expected it would not make as much as the original. And I'm talking Empire, the Indiana Jones sequels, Superman, Batman.
Trek movies.
Yeah, the big movies. The sequels were all considered success, but it was also understood, oh, you're not gonna get that sensation thing again. And then the past decade or so has really gone the other way. I'd actually say more like the last 15 years. Where it's like, oh no, even if you had a blockbuster first one, like the next one's going to be even bigger.
Well, the Pirates movies prove that too.
There was
Pirates 4 made a ton.
There was a lot of cases like that. I think that had to do with the fact that while these were giant blockbusters were happening, it was also the expansion of the market into the world was growing. We might have peaked out on that, and I think it might be a reset of expectations. It's not like Hollywood's going to stop making sequels; they've always done sequels. But they might see, okay, maybe we have to expect that even if it's well received, we only make 70% of the last one. Maybe we budget accordingly, and maybe we don't do quite as many. That might be what happens,
Awesome.